All right, this is John Cola with growingyourgreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. I'm here at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, 650 Okeechobee Boulevard, downtown West Palm Beach, Florida. And we're at the convention center for the 2026 Florida Mango Festival. I was here last year. This place was a Madhouse. This is my second year being here. Last year my video wasn't that good because I was like so busy hanging out, talking to people, and I didn't barely get to film. So this trip I'm kind of focused on the filming and giving you guys an honest review of this event, and more importantly for those of you guys that didn't come, what you missed, all right? So, you know, once again, I'm gonna kind of share my views of last year to this year. So first thing, last year, the biggest issue I saw was when you were driving in, people were just blocked here, and it was just a parking zoo because you actually had to stop and pay to get into the parking structure, whereas this year parking is free, so everybody just drives in the parking structure, so there's no backlogs outside. Next up though, let's see how the backlogs are inside, because last year there was just crazy lines. You have to wait forever to, you know, for them to look you up and all this stuff, and hopefully they've come up with a better way so you can just walk right in if you've paid online. All right guys, so now I'm in the convention center, and this is like, you know, there's a lot of people here. This is the biggest mango festival by far in Florida for sure. So if you want to come to the biggest, this is definitely it. I'm sure they're gonna do it again in 2027. Anyways, downstairs is the first floor, and that's where the convention center is, and all the vendors and whatnot, and the booths. And you can see below me, there's just tons and tons of people waiting in line to get in. I mean, hopefully in the future they have a method where they just, everybody has their barcode on their phone or a printout, and then they just scan people as they go by, because it looks like, you know, some of the lines may be moving, but some of them ain't moving as quickly as I would personally like to see them. And I'm sure, you know, especially when you're at the Mango Festival, nobody wants to wait in line. Another thing would be to do like what Disney does, right? Disney has gotten this figured out. They'll sell an entry ticket between 10 and 11. You could get in at between 10 and 11 for this much money. Between, you know, 12 and 1, you could get in for this much money or whatever. That way people are staggered and they're just not all showing up in the morning. So some things to consider. And I guess for you guys out there watching, get here early, because if you get here late, you're gonna end up spending a lot of time in line. All right guys, so before I head onto the vendor floor, I want to take you guys up to the education. You know, honestly, the education is very important if you're into mangoes, because literally they've collected experts from the whole South Florida area in one place at one time here at the Mango Festival for your benefit. You know, here's an area for the University of Florida Extension, and you can basically leave your mango questions here, and then at 3 o'clock today they're going to have a panel where people will basically answer the questions, and then you can get your questions answered. And I'm going to show you guys the talks that are going on today. All right guys, so they have basically a bunch of different talks here, running from 11:15 to 2:45 in one room, and then 10:45 to 2 o'clock in the other. So this is a seminar program. Then they have a technical presentations. So whether you want to learn about grafting, whether you want to learn about the best cultivars to grow here in South Florida, things like disease resistance, or even get your questions answered, this is the place to go. All right guys, so now we're in the convention center building, and you guys can see this place is just huge. This is a lot larger than last year. There's even more vendors to get to know, things to learn, fresh mangoes to buy, mango trees to buy, and other cool people selling mango associated you know, gifts and tropical fruit wares. So what I'm gonna do next for you guys in this episode is I'm gonna go ahead and walk around this whole vendor area. I'm gonna meet with every vendor personally, talk to them, and then I'm gonna see which ones are the best. And if some are really cool, then I'll basically feature them in this video for you guys, so you guys could learn of the best booths here. And of course, you have to use my judgment, because some of them I'm like, this one's not that important, but you know, maybe they will be. So yeah, let's see what I find out, and we'll be back at you in a little bit. All right guys, so I got an update for you guys. I was here about 3 hours ago, and since then I basically walked all the vendors to check out what's going on, so I could kind of share with you guys the best stuff. I mean, honestly, most of the vendors are like a vendor like this. They basically have a bunch of like mangoes and maybe a few other fruit trees for sale. And then they have like just a bunch of mangoes like for sale. So they're, you know, if you're into gardening or growing things, you can buy trees. And if you're just into eating fruit, like hopefully everybody here is, then you have lots of fruit. And then basically each different vendor had different varieties of mangoes and trees for sale. And what I will say is that you can see all the empty boxes in the front. Those boxes were all full just a few hours ago. So as time goes on, all the good mangoes and all the varieties that are in demand have been sold, and now we're getting whatever's left. So at 2 o'clock, my opinion is that I would not come to the Mango Festival at 2 o'clock because like a lot of the good stuff is gone. I heard people were standing in line here since 7 a.m. because they're that crazy about mangoes. Anyways, let me go ahead and show you guys what happened here and some of my favorite exhibits and vendors in the vendor hall. So I guess later in the day, the mangoes are getting cheaper. They're now $6 a pound. I think earlier, I think the most of them were like around $8, maybe $8.50 a pound. All right, guys, so this is the booth of Bearing Fruit Tropicals. And what I really liked about this booth was that they have a picture of the fruit on top of every fruit tree. So this is like, you know, star fruit, Angie soursop. This is like an avocado. This is an avocado. I really like, oh, and then these are like some berries. I really like they have the picture to show you guys what will come out of the fruit tree that you're gonna buy, because most people, you know, especially if they just like buy fruit at the store, like have no idea. All right, so my favorite booth is actually, they're selling books here, which is fun. It looks like a collection of like used books, but then the author is a person who's selling all the used books, but he also wrote this book. And this book is called the Fruit Companion. You can learn more at thefruitcompanion.com by Seth Balen. And I like this book because it's like, you know, literally you pick up this book, you could be like an encyclopedia of different kinds of fruits. Especially if you go to the grocery store, you don't know like all these fruits are at the Asian supermarket, right? Or even here in South Florida, if you go to the farmer's market, there's all these fruits that you don't even know, right? Basically, this gives you the DL, the download on every single fruit, whether they're tropical or non-tropical. So you can see here, we got things like rose hips, roselle, sumac, sugar apples, anemoyas. So it'll tell you basically how to know when it's ripe, if it's climacteric, if it like ripens off the plant or not. Everything you need to know, how to select one, coconuts, everything, eggplants, yeah, sweet and non-sweet fruits. It's all in this book. And then they even have a section of you know, fruit that needs to be cooked, such as some of the squashes, you know, should be, but probably don't need to be cooked necessarily, but they tend to be a little more starchier. Oh man, he put okra in there, need to be cooked. I would highly disagree. Pick your okra young and raw, tender, no cooking required. I eat it raw all the time. But if you get them at the store and they're a little bit more mature, yeah, probably good to be cooked. Quince, I mean, you could let it get super soft and you could eat them even hard and firm. Yeah, but nonetheless, this is an amazing book, guys. If you guys ever go to the supermarket and you just don't know, you know, how to pick the right fruit or what some of those fruits are, fruitcompanion.com. All right, guys, next up I want to show you guys about the root boot, and it's therootboot.com. This is another important tool if you guys want to do air layering, right? Some trees you could like cut off like a branch, like figs, for example. You can cut the branch off and stick it in dirt. It'll grow its own roots on its own, you know, and this way you maintain and keep the same exact genetics. Some fruit trees, you can't just do that. You just cut the branch off, put it in the ground, it rots. So that's where this comes in. You know, normally they'll use some kind of like plastic bag and wrap it, and it all falls apart, and it gets like, you know, it gets the light in there, then like algae grows and all this stuff. But this is called the root boot. What you do is you basically take the stem of the plant, you'd scar it, and then, I mean, the simple thing is you basically put this on there like this, and with like some peat moss, and keep it like moist. Has to stay moist. This thing is pretty sealed on these larger ones. It'll stay moist for maybe several weeks, maybe even up to a month. But if it's raining, it'll maybe collect a little bit more moisture in there. He does have these smaller ones that moisture can run out very quickly, but this is good for a different size branch. So these are good for more smaller branches. These are good for medium-sized branches. And then he has the size for the larger branches, you know, and this larger branch allows you to basically create roots on a more mature piece of wood, so then when you plant it in the ground, now you have a more expensive potted fruit tree or whatever you are going to do this on. So once you leave this on for a month, or depending on whatever plant it is, you take this off, and then what happens is you have all these roots coming out. I mean, this is dried up, but normally they'd be like nice and ready to go in the ground. You would then plant this in the ground, and then you would instantly have you know, a new tree, the same genetics that have rooted itself. So this is an excellent way to, you know, if you're by like one fruit tree, a named variety, like some of the fruit trees here, the named cultivars are like $50. You can do air layering, right? That's another technique instead of grafting to basically keep the genetics going. So really like these. They're really smart because it makes this whole process super simple. And of course, these are reusable. So you could buy them by the singles or by the pack of 10 at a little bit of a discount at therootboot.com. All right, guys, so while I am here in the Mango Festival today, most of you guys are not here and you missed it. But you know what I want to share with you guys is that a lot of the farmers that are selling mangoes at this event, or even companies, will actually ship you guys mangoes. So one of them happens to be Sal at the Fruit Hunters. There's Miami Fruit as well. So fruithunters.com, miamifruit.com, they both ship you mangoes. They mostly resell Florida and also imported fruit. That being said, places like the backyardmangoes.com, they ship their mangoes. Companies like or Laura Farms, Julian, he basically ships his fresh fit mangoes. You want to see how he does that? Link down below, because I made a video on the whole process on how you guys can have some of the best mangoes delivered to you at your door, you know, without having to come all the way here to Florida. All right, guys, so the next booth I want to show you guys real quick is just Jack and the Beanstalk Nursery. I learned about them actually just yesterday, so I'm actually going to be trying to visit them tomorrow and make a video for you guys. I really like their booth because basically every different pot has a sign in it, so you guys can see you know, exactly what the mango is, and it tells you more about it. And of course they just have mangoes, but they also have other different tropical fruits as well. You know, and I think it's really sad because people just bring trees with like out a label. But I think it's really sad that so many you know, sellers of trees and whatnot, they have these trees, you know, I mean, yeah, they have the variety tag, which is important, but then like most people here, you know, aren't like into like growing trees. Like I would be happy if people that came here to buy mangoes, right, and I sold them a tree so they could grow their own mangoes. So instead of being a consumer of fruit, now they're a producer of their own fruit, right? And so I think really making it this more approachable, like the Jack and the Beanstalk Nursery is something completely amazing, and that other people should do as well. All right, guys, so at the Mango Festival, one of my favorite booths is actually the Food Forest Foodie. And what they do is they do food forest installs for you guys here in Florida. Yes, they even install it in HOAs. They know how to get around that. So let me share with you guys more about that. All right, guys, so when I walked by this booth originally, I was like, oh yeah, Food Forest booth, that's cool. But then when I saw this, I had to stop and I talked with David, the owner. He's a really cool guy. It says HOA, no problem. I live in an HOA, it's a huge problem. People live in HOAs here in Florida, it's a huge problem. Basically, HOAs restrict what you can and can't grow and how you need to maintain your yard. And so in front yards, right, you can't plant a huge mango tree. That's not allowed in the HOA, right? But meanwhile, you know, there are fruit trees that are used as common ornamental landscaping plants that are evergreen here in Florida. So, you know, David knows all the ones that are ornamental that are normally used, and then also too all the cousins of those ornamental edible fruit trees to basically even expand the list out more and even grow more fruit trees in your front yard. And then of course, traditional vegetables are not allowed, while he can help you put in like a vegetable garden in your backyard, because most HOAs don't really care about what you're doing in your backyard as long as it doesn't get too tall. He can also help you put in a lot of perennial vegetables in your front yard. So actually I want to walk around his booth and show you guys some of the perennial vegetables you can put in your front yard so you can grow greens in your front yard unbeknownst to anybody. So for example, you know, David really likes to actually work in edible landscaping. He really likes to work in a lot of color whenever possible, and that's why using something variegated like this Chaya can be very helpful. All these leaves, while they look variegated and looks like you would never want to eat them and they could be poisonous, They actually are. So these can be eaten. However, you need to boil these properly so you can then eat them. And these are basically like a tree spinach. It's known as tree spinach, the chaya. In addition, below the trees in the front yard or in the backyard, you could plant something like this, which is known as a ground cover, right? HOAs would not know that this, kind of decorative plant is also edible. This is known as the longevity spinach. In addition, over here, another one that would be great for ground cover, especially under fruit trees, but it really has a nice leaf shape. This is known as the Brazilian or Sissoo spinach, right? So, he could work with you to design your landscape around your front yard, so that you don't have to go to the grocery store every single freaking week and buy the lettuce and pay tons of money because it's imported from California. You could grow all the greens you need in your front yard, right? Without your HOA even knowing it. I really love flipping off the HOA without them even knowing it, right? Because they say you can't grow food in your front yard. No, you can't grow normal food in your front yard. So one of my favorite kind of like decorative edible trees to eat is this one right here. This is actually related to the hibiscus plant. Yes, the plant that makes those flowers that you guys all like, right? This is basically an edible hibiscus leaf. I think this is the Chief Kubu's prize. And these make nice decorative leaves that look really fancy, but they're all edible. These you could just pick off and put into a salad and eat it instead of lettuce. It's really that mild and that neutral. As you can see, this is nice and decorative. It has a red stem even, with the red stems on the leaves. And so I grow this every single year in Las Vegas. It also loves the heat, and provided you don't get a frost, maybe it doesn't really like below 40 degrees. So here in South Florida, you'd definitely be fine, and this would stay alive year round. And there's 3 different forms of this very plant with different leaf shapes. All right, guys, so back here we have another perennial green that would be great for a hedge. So if you need a hedge, you could do this as your hedge, which is known as the Katuk. Has like a nice nutty flavor. This would be great to use raw in salads. And to me, this is also a very pretty plant. You can just cut it back and then also keep it small and keep it as a whole hedge in the front of your yard, or whether you just want to plant a few outcroppings of these. Also, they do have a variegated Katuk as well that's even more pretty and more decorative. All right, guys, so another super decorative, because most plants are green. This one is red or purplish, right? This is the Cranberry hibiscus. Once again, another hibiscus. All these leaves, they have a little bit more like lemony flavor, whereas the previous hibiscus, the Balen, has a very neutral lettuce-like flavor. All these have a lemony flavor that you can then add to salads as well, maybe a few leaves to make your salad look pretty. But once again, another plant your HOA would never think you're growing, to grow your own greens in your front yard. And David here can do the install and get you set up with all these plants so you don't even have to lift a finger. So last green I want to show you guys here at Food Forest Foodie is the Okinawan spinach. So this is similar to the longevity spinach. That's Gynura procumbens. The Okinawan spinach is Gynura bicolor. Now that's bicolor because normally when this plant has some shade, right, the bottom of the leaves will be really purple. They'll be really beautiful actually. But when they get more full sun, the bottom of the leaves are less purple. So you can see this one barely has any kind of purple blushing on it. But this one has a little bit different flavor than the longevity spinach. But once again, ground cover underneath. So you don't have to put, the grass down and you have to spray the Roundup, right? You can grow your food that can feed you and your family more nutritious greens than money can buy in the store. So if you guys want to get your own Food Forest installation from Food Forest Foodie, hit him up at foodforestfoodie@gmail.com, or you can call him at 561-376-7221. He is also on Instagram at Food Forest Foodie. All right, guys, so if I was here about, I don't know, an hour and a half ago, this is where they were doing the mango tasting. I guess it was $10. You get some sample cups with different pieces of mangoes cut up: Valencia, Molina, Smith, Hayden, Duncan, Pinkerton's, Lippin. So, for me personally, I probably wouldn't spend $10 to get the mango tasting. It's kind of fun. There's there's 2 lines that move relatively quickly. But for me, some of the booths, if you kind of waited in line to some of the booths were actually doing mango tasting as well. And I would use my $10 to try to find some good mangoes to buy myself. But I guess it is an easy way and convenient way to, you know, sample some mangoes. But I guess the thing for me is that, you know, they're choosing the mangoes that you're getting to sample. And I would like, I mean, to me, there's a lot more interesting mangoes than the ones they're sampling out. So, but then that depends on your palate and then how often you've had exposure to different types of mangoes, you know, that are out there. And I've had a lot of exposure. And I've tried a lot of mangoes in the past. All right, guys, so now we're pretty much at the sold out booth of the Hidden Acres mangoes. And you can see this is the mangoes that they had available today. And they sold for $7 a pound. It's now 3 o'clock. This event closes at 5, but basically they're already sold out. A bunch of other people still have a few varieties of mangoes left. But once again, like I said in my original video, get here early. But yeah, you can see they have a lot of different mangoes here to try. And if you've never tried all these, I'd recommend getting here early, buying a few of the ones that you think you're gonna like, and then maybe take them, get ripe ones, because also too, the ripe ones sold first, right? Sit down and then try the ones, and then if you like them, then go buy more, right? Or just buy one of everything, so at home, you can have a smorgasbord. Now, the other thing is you wanna bring a black indelible marker, because they might be labeled when you buy them, like in a box, and like, oh, this is a Maha Chinook. But then once you buy them, you're gonna put them in a bag and then nothing's labeled. So as you buy them, label it yourself so that you know the cultivar you're buying, so that you can separate those out later. Maybe you wanna keep a record of the ones you tried and which ones you like the most for next time. But yeah, I definitely recommend you guys doing that. There's so many different mangoes and you're probably gonna get them confused. All right, guys, so I'm so glad for the University of Florida Extension. I mean, they have a number of tables here. They're like kind of sponsoring some of the speaking. Upstairs, they have a big table there to help educate people. They have a number of tables here to educate people. And then they have these displays, you know, and I think this is really important. Unfortunately, most people seem to just walk by these signs. I always like to educate myself, so that, you know, if I'm a better student, I can become a better teacher for you guys out there in YouTube land and just, you know, be a better person, right? And, you know, here's the thing, like, this talked about like where mangoes originated originally, like the wild mango. Over centuries, people began choosing and cultivating the best mango trees, those with sweeter flesh, fewer fibers, and juicier fruit, and disease resistance. So, you know, mangoes have changed a lot. This is more of a wild mango here. The fruits were a lot smaller. There's you know, the flesh was not as sweet and there's less fibers. And unfortunately these days, it seems like they're breeding for the fiberless fruit that are the most sweet. Now I do appreciate that they're also breeding for flavors and these amazing flavors. And that's what it gets into over here. From force to flavor explosion. There's basically two types of mangoes. There's the Indian type and then the South Asian type. And then both different Indian type and the Asian type, you know, in India and Asia, they were both breeding them, you know, at the same time over the years, and they got different flavors. But then now, we're able to cross these two. So today, hundreds of mangoes cultivars exist, and connoisseurs, some call them mango sommeliers, group them into flavor categories. For example, classic Florida, bold and balanced, the mangoes many Americans know best. Like if you just go to the grocery store, you're gonna get the classic flavors, you know, the Haydens, for example, the Tommy Atkins. Then there's the citrus kind, the zingy and refreshing, almost like biting into tangerine. And then my favorite type are the coconut style, or the creamy, tropical, and surprisingly smooth style. And now with further innovations in breeding, you know, new seedling varieties coming up, all these are being crossed, new kind of traits are being formed, and new flavors are being found all the time. You know, that's why there's actually we'll swing the camera behind me, there's this table with probably this year, there's probably like over 300 varieties of different mangoes. Now, they're not all ripe, but this shows you like the variety of mangoes. And if they all were ripe, each one of them would taste different, but fit within one of those three categories: the classic, the citrus, or the coconut, you know. And it's just insane if you go to the grocery store, right? It just labeled mango. It doesn't even say the variety unless you saw the box come in that'll say Hayden or Tommy or whatever on there, right? Or maybe Keats if you're lucky. And those ones are all the classic varieties. They're picked too early. They're hot water dipped or irradiated when they're imported. And then there's very little flavor to them, you know. So those of you guys that know Florida mangoes, have ever been here to Florida to eat Florida mangoes, right? It's a whole different experience. And that's why I'm glad many of the farms, you know, like Laura Farms. So I was just talking to Julian, link down below to that video, where we picked in mangoes on his farm. We ate them, and I showed you guys how he will ship them ripe to you. You could have a really amazing experience without having to come to Florida. You know, so I'm so glad for, you know, all the people in this industry in mangoes that make this available. And the other thing I thought was that how crazy it to be here in a 100,000 square foot convention center that is dedicated to only mangoes. Would they ever have a convention center rented out for sapodillas or chico zapote fruits? I don't think so, right? But mangoes are ingrained across many different cultures. I've saw many different cultures represented today here, trying to find the mango that they grew up with from their Caribbean island, or, you know, from where they are, from India, or wherever else in the world. So yeah, mango is a fruit, like many fruits, that can bring us together. All right, guys, so next I want to show you guys the booth of the USDA. You know, I'm happy when my tax-paying dollars go to, you know, a department of the government I definitely improve upon, or improve of. And you can see they have different kinds of avocados. And I want to go ahead and explain the sign they have today. And they've been doing a lot of avocado research. And once again, like mangoes, if you go to the store and buy mangoes, you basically get like a Hayden or Tommy, right? But you go to the store and you buy an avocado, you pretty much always get the Haas, the #1 variety grown worldwide, grown in California. 90% of US production is the Haas. And my personal opinion is that this is incredibly sad, because there are thousands of other different types of avocados, you know, that are more interesting even than the Haas, but maybe they're just not as fatty. Maybe they're not as shippable or storable, right? And I want there to be more diversity in the world, you know. And people here we're selling at least a half different kinds of avocado trees if you want to have it, if you want to grow your own, right? And so now I want to show you guys some of the insights. I've known this about avocados, but most of you guys don't. You know, like there's 3 main types of avocados. There's the Mexican type avocado, there's the Guatemalan type, and there's the West Indian type. And I really love this sign, because it basically tells it like it is, right? The oil content of the Mexican is the highest, right? Mexican avocados are what I grow in Las Vegas. I also have a tree in Northern California. The Guatemalan is just high, it's not the highest, and then the West Indian is low. So the type of avocados normally grown here in the tropics in Florida are the West Indian type that are lower in the fat. You ever see like the Booth avocado, right? Or the ones from Dominican Republic. Those are like a little bit more like, you know, lighter in the flesh color and lower in fat. You know, I appreciate those, right? Nonetheless, also the skin color too, like on the Mexican type, they're black when ripe, so they turn. So this makes it easier for customers to don't know how to tell when your fruit is ripe. Oh, it turns black when they're ripe, right? And then the Guatemalan stays green when it's ripe, and then the West Indian will be green or purple or red when it's ripe. And then more importantly, the skin thickness, right? On the Mexican, they're very thin skin. This means in shipping and transit, they can damage very easily. And the Guatemalan are thick, leathery skin, just like on the Haas, right? It's thick and leathery, it's bumpy, the skin kind of protects the fruit from getting damaged in shipping, right? If you're trying to buy other kinds of avocados like the Fuertes or the Bacons, if you are able to find those, right? Though the skin is a lot thinner, they don't travel well. You very rarely find those in commercial production and trade. And the West Indian has a medium thick skin, so it's like better. Oh, and the other thing that I didn't tell you guys is the Mexican avocados are known to have an edible skin as well that tastes like anise or licorice. So the best experience me eating avocados is grabbing like a Mexican style avocado, like a Mexicola is one of the popular varieties, eating it with the skin and all the fat, rich flesh. That's like the best in the world way for me to eat avocado these days. And of course then the climate, you know, is Mexican is semi-tropical, Guatemalan is subtropical, and the West Indian is tropical, right? And then the cold tolerance is the most cold tolerant for the Mexican varieties, and this is intermediate, and this is the least cold tolerant. And then the salt tolerance, which matters depending on where you grow, like here in Florida, right? This is the least tolerant, intermediate, and the West Indian is most tolerant. So you can see that the West Indy, which is basically the type grown in Florida predominantly, fits the exact location that we're at, right? But maybe California, right? Maybe this would work better. So you can see on this sign here, the Haas is the standard variety on the market, is a Mexican cross with Guatemalan. So it's a hybrid between these two, and the Florida has developed its own niche market with the West Indian cultivar. Standard Haas is not adapted to Florida. So that's what the USDA does. They're basically finding the genetics, working with and creating the right genetics to grow, better avocados for, in this area, Florida, but even other areas of the country, better avocados for California and better avocados for all us Americans that love our avocados. So I'm so glad for the USDA that's doing this work to make avocados better again. All right, guys, so about the only thing I didn't show you in this room is this whole table that goes, or many tables that go all the way down. Once again, I'm not showing it this year, but link down below to my video where I go over the whole table, pronounce every single mango they had here last year. And it looks similar to this year. Maybe they have a few more this year. I think at the end of this episode, I want to share with you guys my thoughts on the Mango Festival. My thoughts are simply, I love the Mango Festival, right? I'm glad so many people are into mangoes. Makes me sad though when they run out early. Some of the people were sold out by one guy was sold out by 11, one guy was sold out by 1, and I'm just talking like mango fruits. So they still need to get more people selling unique varieties of mango fruits here. And of course, I always like to see when fruit trees sell, because I want more people to start growing their own fruits instead of just consuming the fruits. So also trying to work on getting people educated on how easy a mango can be to grow. And I know upstairs they had many different talks on the best varieties to pick in Florida, because some are more prone to disease and some are more resilient, but it also depends on your specific growing location. So in the end, I would encourage you guys to support the Mango Festival. Come out to next year's, because they will be doing it again. And for those of you guys that are watching, most important thing I could say out of my mouth is get here early. Underlined 10 times, all right? So I think that'll be it for this year's Mango Festival. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to give this a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this with other Floridians and people that are into mangoes, so they can learn about a truer view here at the Mango Festival. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes that come in every 5 to 7 days. You know where to show up, what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel, and make sure you click the little bell so you're notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are wealth of knowledge, over 1,800 episodes at this time on this channel, dedicated to you guys all about how to grow your own food at home. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.